In 2024, with the help of the city, the Historical Society undertook a research and exhibition project called Represented at Last. And this panel is an extension of that work. You can find the oral histories that we did, the essays that were written, and some of our authors are here tonight, and the exhibition displays all on our website at hslb.org. Materials and information that we collect serve as a research source for students, educators, policymakers, and others. I want to share with you a quick overview so that you get to set the scene for our discussion tonight. I'm going to talk about some barrier breakers. Ruth Bach was the first woman elected to the City Council in Long Beach in 1954. Only a few newspaper articles exist about her, and we couldn't find very much information other than she passed away within her first 2 years in office. We don't want this to be the legacy of barrier breakers in the city. We want to make sure that barrier breakers and the stories of civil rights leaders are preserved. In 1970, Jim Wilson was the first African American and the first person of color elected to serve on the Long Beach City Council. And by 1976, after many, many attempts, finally a proposition was passed that required that city council members actually live in the districts that they represent. This gave way to better representation at the city council level. In 1980, despite the city council being slightly more representative of the people, they used many, many excuses to block a lesbian and gay pride parade and festival from getting permits. But by 2014, Long Beach elects its first Latinx and first LGBTQ mayor in Mayor Robert Garcia. A few years later, in 2020, we elect Mayor Rex Richardson and a supermajority of women to the City Council. These are some big changes for what was known as Iowa by the Sea. We're keenly aware that this topic and this change and civil rights in Long Beach can't be covered in a 90-minute panel discussion or in the research that we've done so far. But we recognize that this discussion is important and another way to delve into the topic. Our exhibition focused mostly on the changes politically, and today we hope to delve in to some of the overlapping issues and grassroots organizing taken on by different communities. To help us learn more about the activism that helped transform the city to become more representative are our four panelists. Thank you so much for being here with us.
I'm glad to be here.
I'd like to introduce each of them before we get started. Ron Arias has dedicated the past 50 years to community and Chicano activism. Ron attended CSULB, and he was an integral part of the Chicano student movement there. He became involved with the development of Chicano studies, expanding educational services such as EOP, and was a member of the United Farm Workers movement. From there, Ron became involved in the Centro de la Raza, and later was the director of the Long Beach Health and Human Services Department. At the Health Department, he was responsible for the development of the Miller Family Health Education Center. Another panelist is Sharon Diggs-Jackson. She was born and raised in Long Beach. Sharon was part of a pilot program which integrated LBUSD schools as a young student. Sharon attended the University of Southern California, had a career in public service with the City of Long Beach, and worked for IBM. She's a founding member of the African American Cultural Center of Long Beach, is a community organizer in the newly formed Historical Black Cultural District, and serves on the Long Beach Community Foundation Board of Directors.
Thank you.
Sithea San immigrated to the United States in 1981 with her surviving family members after the terror of the Khmer Rouge. Sithea attended California State University, Dominguez Hills, and returned to Cambodia to aid reconstruction of the country. She returned to Long Beach in 2001. She was an integral part of establishing Cambodia Town, Inc., and part of the early groups that advocated for Cambodian New Year, the festival and parade. Today, she's the chair of Cambodia Town. Our fourth panelist is Tonia Reyes Uranga, a former councilwoman who has an extensive history advocating for human rights. She worked at Centro de la Raza's Escuela, and later, as a student at UCLA, she joined the United Farm Workers Movement. Tonia stepped into the political scene as president of the League of United Latin American Citizens, and later was elected to the Long Beach City Council, where she served from 2002 to 2010. Tonia currently serves as on the board of Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy and is president of LULAC, Long Beach Council 3309. Thank you, Tonia. We're reserving time so that we can have a discussion with all of you at the end, so be thinking of your questions. I'd like to introduce HSLB historian Victoria Roa. Victoria will moderate our discussion. She's taught U.S. history to high school students. She conducted research about the Pachecos, or female Zoot Suiters, in Los Angeles, and she led the research and organized the Represented at Last Research and Exhibition Project. Thanks, Victoria.
All right, good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. All right, so again, my name is Victoria. I am the historian here at the Historical Society of Long Beach. I got my master's degree at Cal State Long Beach 2023, and I specialized in US and world history. My big focus is on intersectional identity. So how does race, gender, and socioeconomic class really play into who we are as people, and how does that fundamentally, say where people put us in categories, right? Where do we belong and where do we not belong, and how do we then break out of those molds and define those spaces for ourselves? So when I saw the opportunity to head this research project, I was super excited, and I'm really excited to continue that work here with the panel. So thank you all for being here, and thanks to the panelists for being here. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lay out the panel structure. So I'm just gonna ask the question to the panelists. Whoever wants to answer first can go ahead, and then we'll go ahead and work our way until everyone answers the question, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the next. But before I ask you guys a question, I do want to pose a question to the audience so that you guys can think while we are discussing. And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, especially given the state of the world. So how do we define activism? How do you define activism in your life? And what can we do to be involved in the community? So I want you guys to ponder upon that while we hear from our panelists over here. So first question for you guys is, what drew you to activism and politics? How did you get involved?
Well, I will go first. Again, I'm Sharon. I had the pleasure of being raised in a household to where activism happened every single day. My parents came here in the early 1940s. My father was an activist. We lived over on Cabrillo Housing Project. And I have a clip of an article for him in 1955 where he was speaking before Long Beach City Council talking about the housing discrimination and what was going on. I happened to be born in 1956. So from the day I was born, we were in a household where people were meeting. I see some of my elders out in the audience who were part of those movements. But as a child, I was involved in growing up here in Long Beach Unified, and I was trying to figure out the year. I think it was 1965. I was part of a sort of an exploratory group. Long Beach was about to try to do voluntary integration, and they grabbed a bunch of us from Burnett and Lincoln and Roosevelt and bused us across town to Minigan Elementary School. And that was never really an option for me. My parents had been involved, and so they expected their children to be involved as well. Went on, and then in 1970, was part of a group that was sent over to Wilson High School to actually integrate Wilson High School. We left from Franklin. They came and recruited us and said, hey, you can go. If you don't like it, you can come back. There was about 40 of us who went. Changed my life. Didn't know really that there was much beyond Redondo. Had not traveled much further beyond Redondo as a child. We had an amazing community here in the central part of Long Beach with churches, with schools, with families, and all of that. But kind of opened up my eye to the larger Long Beach and what was happening. And that was my introduction to activism, to integration, to being involved, and that just has been a part of my life ever since then. So I don't think I ever had an option.
Thank you, Sharon.
Well, I think most people become activated, I guess you could say, because something happens to them or something is done to them, and so they react in one way or another, and one way is activism in their community or in their lives or in the institutions that they belong to. For me, it was about family. You know, we had my husband, Vice Mayor, we had 3 children and we're scared to death. We didn't know what to do with them. So we decided we'd get involved with the city because we wanted to know where they were at all times. But it was really to try to have a safer city. But I also grew into this, and I remember when in the 60s there was a presidential race, you all know, Kennedy and, come on, you all know him. Nixon. Mm-hmm. So I lived in Compton, I grew up there, and so we had to clear the front room out and put a lot of little booths, and our mom said we could fake vote for the person, and so we had a big argument because, you know, John Kennedy was really cute, and he was Catholic, and he had a big family, so he must be Mexican. And then we saw Nixon and said, meh. So, you know, we really didn't know, and I thought it was a silly reason to vote for a president, but you know, he must have been a Mexican because he had a big... So after that, they said, you cannot come into the front room because this is where serious business happens. And they told us, well, what's going on is that we're picking a president today. I said, President of the United States? I was shocked that we, as a small family in Compton, in their front room, can pick the next president of the United States. And so the rest of the 5 hours or 10 hours that the booths were open, I had to run around with a little bicycle knocking on doors, and Mama said, come vote, Mama said, come and vote. I learned a lot from that you know, anyone can be part of this country and how it develops, but also that a lot of people don't care, because a lot of doors were slammed in my face even as a 6-year-old, and I was thinking, this is crazy. So it taught me a lot on how to run campaigns, right, and what to look for. But as I grew older and went to UCLA, I thought I'm going to really get involved in. The women's movement was strong then in the 70s, but because I went to Catholic school, I was closer to the Virgin Mary than I was to Betty Friedan, so I didn't know what they were talking about until, of course, later. But I think I drew to the United Farm Workers, you know, I was drawn to them because boy, did they know how to organize. I mean, nobody in that school was a farm worker, but we sure fought hard like we were. They taught us organizing, they taught us how to get out there into the communities. We marched everywhere in Southern California and drove buses if we weren't, you know, close enough. And so I learned that working people really are the soul of this country, and that's what we need to fight for. And I became a labor activist and worked for the County Federation of Labor for a while. So, and as I went on, it really helps to marry someone who helps you. I know that Ron also has a partner in activism, and so Roberto, you know, we had our ways. He was head of the Hispanic Business Association. I, again, went on to be the LULAC president, as probably most of the Latinos in Long Beach were involved in LULAC in the 80s and 90s, and we partnered with a lot of the people who were activists in the community. And it died down for a while, but now, a couple of years ago, we decided we can't just sit there and be grandparents and watch our grandchildren. We have to continue because it's so, so serious what's happening in this country today. So I'm glad you're all here, and again, thank you for many of you who really should be up here and not me. I see Evelyn and John and a couple of other people. I said, oh my goodness. Those are my mentors and my elders too, so thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tonia.
While I listen to both of the panelists, they have background, family. For me, activism, it's because it's an experience that I have. My family, no background in politics, and nothing ever involved. So for me, it's the experience myself and my family went through the Khmer Rouge and killing field. All those experiences that drew me to become, active, and also, came here as a refugee. I know how struggle it is to speak English. So when I came here, I speak no English, and they had to put me in school that I remember math and science, and I don't know what to do when the teacher gave me the test. I'm just look at people around, and cannot take the test because I don't know, I cannot read. So that, and then I get into, fight because I don't speak English, and one of the students just say F-word to me. I have no idea, I just keep smiling. And when later on someone translated for me, and I said, what should I do? Oh, she said, you too. So the next day, that person come and harass me again. So I just said, you too, and they come and hit me. So my sister saw that, and she got into a fight, and we all get suspended. But that experience, and I tell myself that, yes, what experience, what I went through, those trauma, I think remember your word that something that tricked you. Mm-hmm. The trauma that I had in the past that give me strength to get involved, doing because in Cambodia, my family is just a civilian, don't want to get involved in politics. We want to be, live in peace. But you know what? The people that get victimized and the one that get suffer, the one did not get involved. And that's why when I came here, I graduated from college, I met my husband, I said, I registered to, after I become a U.S. citizen, I registered to vote right away. Because I don't want to be left out when things go wrong. That's what happened in Cambodia. We knew nothing. We the last one that stay suffer. The people that know what's going on, they left. And so I make sure that my family, my community will get involved and make a decision, which means I have one vote, everybody have one vote, so we will make a decision. That's why it drew me to activism. Thank you.
Thank you, Sithea.
My involvement started right after graduating from high school in 1966. Not right after, but shortly after. I attended College of the Desert. I wanted to play football, so I was playing football at COD. My sophomore year, I started dating Phyllis Ortega, who is my wife of 54 years. Phyllis was a preppy, so she went straight from high school to UCSB. At UCSB, Phyllis began she was a sorority girl, I was a fraternity guy. We were not very involved in a lot of different things. But we were Mexican, we knew who we were. We had Chicano families. We already used the word Chicano. Phyllis goes to the university, starts getting involved with a group of students, probably about 30, began organizing a United Mexican American Students chapter at the University of UC Santa Barbara. Started sending me all this information. So I'm reading all of this, and I'm getting kind of excited, and wow, this is really cool. This is interesting. I had already gone through quite a change, being raised in San Bernardino, going to Palm Springs with my mom when my mom and dad separated. So going from a black and brown school to an all-white school, and all of the changes that you have to go through to survive in that environment, which I did. It wasn't that difficult. But Phyllis started changing, and she started sending me all of these newspapers, La Raza magazine, Mayo magazine. And at the same time, at College of the Desert, Cesar Chavez was organizing in Coachella. And he had organizers that would go to COD at lunchtime. They'd set up a table, and I started going over to that table. All of my white friends were like freaking out. I went, well, I've got to go over there. I want to learn what they're talking about. But shortly after that, we tried to organize a United Mexican American Students chapter at College of the Desert, and at that time, they had what they called as a Campus Life Committee. You had to apply to Campus Life for designation as an official organization on campus. They denied it. We couldn't understand it. There were other chapters that were religious. There were Democratic and Republican chapters that they said, no, we don't need any organization that separates ourselves based on ethnicity. Well, I transferred at midterm in '69 to Long Beach State. And Long Beach State was already organized, already had a fairly active UMAS chapter. So immediately, I went over to Long Beach State. They had a trailer. I met Armando Vázquez Ramos, Pancho Sandoval, Saya Abreu, and a bunch of other people, and just began getting involved. At the university, our fundamental goals as young Chicano students, Mexican Americans at the time, because we were still UMAS, we hadn't quite become MECHA, was to increase the numbers on campus. There were so few of us at Long Beach State. I think there might have been 500 Mexican American students in '69. The campus probably had about 28,000 students. So we went about our business of trying to increase our numbers. I was an EOP student. For those of you that went to Long Beach State, you may remember Educational Opportunities Program. The EOP program was an amazing program for many of us, because not only did it provide financial aid and other resources, academic resources, tutorial services, we met every weekend. They required us to meet every weekend. So we had these large meetings, Chicano students, Black students, Native American students, Asian students. And the administration made us work together. So we were working together, but we all had a similar fundamental goal. We all wanted to increase our numbers on that campus, and we all had goals of establishing ethnic studies departments. Black studies was the first, Chicano studies was the second, I think the Asian studies, but that's how my political involvement began. Primarily as a student organizer, primarily working at EOP. I was a student recruiter. So I used to get paid to go to all of these regional high schools, and we would sit down at a table and set up our stuff and explain what EOP was. But not only did we explain the written part, the official part, we had an unofficial part, because we were asking every student, if you're coming to Long Beach State, you're going to have to get involved in the Chicano movement. You're going to have to get involved with UMAS. You're going to have to do certain things, because we're struggling on that campus and we need people that are going to get involved. That's kind of how I got started, and of course, kept going from there.
Thank you, Ron.
Veronica, I think one word. I think one of the points, if I didn't bring it up, that we haven't really mentioned here, I think we all got involved because there was a need.
Right.
Things were not equal.
Yes.
Long Beach was a city that had been built in such a way to where it was not equal. It was separate but not equal. My parents got involved because there was a need. You couldn't vote, couldn't live. You were restricted to a certain area. Our schools, we were concerned about whether the schools were equal or not. So that activism is really motivated by the need and inequity. And we see that that's still kind of exists today. It's still a driving factor, I think, for all of us. It would have been nice to be able to just sit back and live quietly and have a nice, quiet life, but that wasn't the circumstance.
Definitely. Thank you for bringing up that point, Sharon. And yes, this is, everything that you guys talked about is because there was a need, right? And like Sithea and Tonia mentioned, there was something that triggered, right? There's maybe it's just one event, maybe it's a series of events, but you see those inequities, right? And I can relate, not necessarily at the same level, but as a Mexican-American woman growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood, I didn't know why I was treated differently, from other kids. And so I can resonate with that, seeing that inequity and that need for things to be different. So thank you guys for sharing and answering that question. So now that we talked a little bit kind of your early activism and how you guys got involved, I'm interested to know within these organizations that you started out with, or even later as you got into office, what were some of the tactics that you employed in your activism? Did you go campaigning? What else did you do within these organizations and as you moved up in your careers?
I think for us, and I say it because my partner of the last, I don't know how many, way too long sometimes. When we started off, became active, we were married, we had children, and Roberto decided to run for school board because we thought that's the way you do it. You get involved, you be the one making the decisions, because don't let people make decisions for you or your family. You need to be involved, and one way was to be an elected and be on the school board and tell people how you want your child to be treated, because we knew too many families who, because they didn't speak English or because they were new to the district or because they were being ignored or harassed, they didn't have representation on the school board. Thanks to Jenny and a couple of other people in the organizations, we had ended up having district elections, which allowed now more people that represented the community to run for office and actually succeed. We didn't have all 9 members of the city council coming from one side of the city. And so Labachi was one of the big groups that I learned from. And I say, I don't know if it's a strategy, but just common sense, that we really embraced not just the Latino community, but we embraced those that taught us everything we know now. And when he ran in '88 for school board, he lost really bad. But we think it is a win because we met Doris Topsy-Alvord, who ran with him in the same race. We met Bobby Smith, who ran with him in the same race. She ended up winning, and we supported Doris in the runoff. And we had lifelong friends. I mean, those were people who taught us everything we knew about politics. Then when we went to, when I ran, it was like, oh my God, I ran when Jenny ran, and in '94, except I lost by 1 vote. After a recount, if it was one of those things, we found 7 votes on the bottom, because the district I ran for was not a Latino district. It included Cal Heights and Bixby Knolls and some West Side and Wrigley, but it's totally different, and why redistricting is so important. But we met people there. We had a coalition of organizations, and it included Labachi, which the women there were fabulous. Joanne Byrne, Edith Pollack, Nada, who's still around, Nada Tushnet. They were awesome. Some of them older, very active, very educated, very organized. I learned so much from them. When we had the, the Don Jackson incident in '89, was it 1989? When that police officer from Torrance, or he was retired, went, because no one was listening about police brutality at that time, bashed his head in the West Side in front of one of the stores on Pacific Coast Highway, and he had filmed the whole thing. And we partnered with NAACP, Frank Berry, and the LGBTQ community with Lambda, the Democratic Club, that was the only really group that was representing gay and lesbians at that time. We got together with other community groups, and we raised hell. We had press conferences, and it was so beautiful to see, which I think right now isn't happening so much, but we had our Black leaders there, we had Latino leaders, we had the LGBT community leaders, we had our strong, mostly very progressive white women that were there that were just kicking butt, and we had lawyers, we had people on our side, and so we were able to get the attention and really had Public Safety Advisory Committee that really resulted in the Citizen Police Complaint Commission, which whatever it is now after this charter reform. But I think it's not really a strategy, but it's a must. You can't we started LULAC, or we not started LULAC, but we had strengthened LULAC to the point that we were another tight link. NAACP was so well known and very active at that time. We also had, again, like I said, Lambda and Labachi. So us coming together was awesome. The people united can never be defeated. And so when you bring groups together, but it could only happen if LULAC wasn't, it could only have happened if LULAC wasn't strong or if NAACP wasn't there and strong. So you have to really build in your own community first. But once you do that, coming together is awesome, because there's nothing like going to a city council meeting when you have every member in different faces coming and asking for the same thing and being on the same page. And so we want that to happen again, because we've kind of gone out in our own way. We've raised children, we served on city councils and are on our own, did our own thing. And now, again, there is a need. And so I know NAACP is coming up stronger. There's a lot of, the Cambodian community has been present. It is amazing what can happen if you just decide to make it happen. Yeah. Again, that's not a strategy, it's more common sense, but more often than not, everyone wants to go their own way. But if we didn't have people like Evelyn telling us, girl, you need to do something different, or you're not quite, but you have to listen to your elders, and you have to coalesce, you have to come together with other strong community groups, whether they're part of your background or not, because we're all there for the same thing, and that's make sure to have representation and to ensure that our children have a better life. And that's exactly why we came. People come to this country, and it's getting real serious right now. And I see, Centro Cha's dealing with a lot of stuff, and so we need to support them and everybody else that really puts it takes a lot of energy to do what we do. And our children tell me sometimes, we kind of lost you for a while. You guys were so involved so you have to kind of weigh it, the pros and cons. Now we have grandchildren, and so we're making up for that. But, so I think that's the best strategy that we've ever had, and we still have, and that everyone needs to learn, is that you can't do it alone. You need your progressive brothers and sisters to help you out.
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you, Tonia.
If I put a few dates on some of the things that Tonia talked about, 1969, that was when the battle was won to have council district elections. Yeah. The African American community, the Latino community, there would have never been any other electors other than those from the East Side had they not passed that law. So in 1969. It wasn't until 1984 that they then had district elections for the school board. So we're not talking a long time ago. But the key between those two times and what happened the most is that there was a committed group of people who met every day, every other week. I can remember people coming to my parents' house and us getting pushed out of the room while they had their discussions and their planning and their strategizing. I mean, they had a plan. They were committed to giving everyone access. And so when we think about involvement now, and when I retired, I actually moved to Selma, Alabama, and my husband and I lived there for 8 years because we wanted to understand. And we had an opportunity to meet every living civil rights legend that there was. And I left Selma with one thing understanding, that it wasn't the superstars, it wasn't Dr. Martin Luther King that got the voting rights passed or got the Civil Rights Act passed. It was the committed group of local residents who had been meeting for 10 years before King came and who were willing to meet for 5 years after King left until it happened. And each of those individuals, most of those everyday people who were part of the civil rights movement, I see Peggy back there and all of that, they paid a price. It wasn't easy to change. They couldn't get jobs, they got arrested, those kinds of things. But it was that level of commitment of the everyday citizen, not the superstar, who stuck together, strategized, worked. That was the formula. It changed the Constitution. That formula still has value. it's going to take the everyday residents, the citizens of us, not that we have to get out there and march and protest the same way that they did, because we have technology and all of that. But that's what my parents passed down to me. That's what we're going to have to pass down to our young people, that you can't just send an email, you can't just post it on social media and you're going to make changes. No, it takes an ongoing effort and a committed effort to be able to move that forward. And it's not about the superstar. It's about the collective people.
Thank you, Sharon.
Well, for me, listen to both speakers, I'm really inspired. And also, I just want to share that because your environment, your work, your community have make a path for us. Cambodian community, we just small and new community. And not many people know where's Cambodian or where's Cambodia. When people talking about Vietnam War, they only know Vietnam. They don't know that it's a Indochina, 3 countries, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. So that's involved, in war. So and I remember Councilwoman Tonia Uranga said that before you get involved, you have to strengthen your community. That's what myself and my husband and my community, we try to strengthen our community to learn. Actually, we learn from African American community, Hispanic community. We learn it from you. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Cambodia town that I remember, my husband and I, like I said, we went to Cambodia to help, rebuild Cambodia, and then we returned back in 2001. And that's what the community talking about Cambodia town during that time. Mm-hmm. And my husband and I get involved, and that is the first thing that we really get involved, in the community, like very strong. And it was a good idea, and I remember that we have to go work with the African American community, Hispanic, I believe Filipino community, just to get their support for that's how I learned to get involved in the community. And when we start to talk to the city council, I think way back 2001, during that time I'm not really heavy involved, but there's another team, and they got rejected. But because they didn't know what to do, I think the proper channel, the proper step. So then we have to come back, and then we have to put the group together, and that's how my husband and I get involved. Then we start to talk to the city council, we start to work with the African American community, Hispanic community, and build up the support. And we just want to let you know that it's not that you divided the land or anything, it's just the identity. Because what Cambodian people went through, the trauma, all of these things, when they come here, they don't have any pride. They lost everything when they came here. So in order for give them the pride and also heal, our community, we need identity. And so that's why Cambodia town establishment is very important. And before the young generation, I would say that people that are born here, or maybe they came here as a young age, they never call themselves, identify themselves as a Cambodian. Do you know why? Because the story is all about suffering, killing, Cambodian, killing Cambodian. It's no other country ever experienced it. And so they don't want to associate. And that is really hard for us to build our community. And that's why Cambodia town designation is very important. And the cross culture, and I remember that when we start working, I think we're working with your office. I remember you as a city council, we asked for your support, and then we talked to all the city council. And I really appreciate that. You vote to support, the designation, and you give us the identity, the pride for our community. And I think the first parade that we have it on Anaheim Street, you do not know. Cambodian community, it's the first time ever in history that I know since I stepped my foot, live in Long Beach, I would say thousands on Anaheim Street on both sides, raising Cambodian flag and American flag with pride. And that's what that give me the strength, to work harder for the community, not just only Cambodian, but with other. And that's what I just want to share. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When we graduated from Long Beach State, that was in 71, 72. Many of us stayed in Long Beach, and primarily living in the 90804 area, bounded between Anaheim and 7th Street, between Atlantic and, well, we didn't go far to Redondo, but what we discovered, yeah, we didn't go past Redondo.
Redondo was a magic line.
But we did attend campus. But what we discovered was that there was the Long Beach Commission on Economic Opportunity, LBCEO. This is in the early 70s. LBCEO was the creation of President Johnson's War on Poverty. This is where a lot of resources were coming to Long Beach to address low-income population needs, primarily Black, Latino, I would say other poor people. There were a lot of poor white people in North Long Beach at the time. In fact, they were organized. But we focused on the East Long Beach Neighborhood Center, and we began to organize there. At that time, there were no Chicanos or Latinos at any level of city government, any level of anything. So we were just starting out cold and beginning to figure out how to proceed. Well, LBCEO was where there was money. I think the Central, I don't know how many of you got to see our exhibit at the Historical Society, but we got to share some of the things that we were able to do in the early 70s. But what we accomplished in a relatively short period of time was that we figured out many of the processes for getting involved in the city. We got appointments on the Community Development Advisory Commission. We got appointments to some of the lesser commissions. Ultimately, we got on Recreation Commission. I think we got our first Latina on the Civil Service Commission. That was Olivia Nieto Herrera. Doris was also one of the first non-white members of the Civil Service Commission. But it was incremental, and we just kept working and trying to grow ourselves. After a few years, I mean, we had established a fairly viable organization. We ran Head Start for the entire city of Long Beach. Phyllis was the grantee director. Grantee director ran the entire Head Start program for not only Long Beach, but for Hawaiian Gardens, Paramount, and Catalina Island. So we learned quickly. We had those degrees in our pocket, and that's where I met Carmen Perez. And of course, at the same time that all this was going on, we began to get involved in the Democratic Party and organizing and participating in that process. And we became very good at it. Yeah, we became very good at it. So that was our involvement.
Thank you, Ron. So what I'm hearing from everyone's responses is that it's not only important to build your own community, but also to come together across communities and other cultures. And also, it sounds like there's a big generational kind of like passing on the torch, if you will, right? Not just, elders within your own community, but people from outside of your community, right? Helping one another and seeing those needs, those gaps in equity and representation. So kind of building off of the importance of community, we'll refer to Long Beach as like the larger community. How do you then see your activism and your work in your career. How do you see that as being a factor to contributing to current representation in the city of Long Beach and current levels of equity? I know that we've acknowledged we still have ways to go, but I mean, compared to how things were, maybe even like 10, 20 years ago, things are very different. So I'm interested to know how you guys see your work fitting within that larger picture.
Well, as we get older, I'm just going to jump in. As we get older, and I'm older now, and that I think it's incumbent upon me to look at those that are coming next. I'm thankful for the gifts I received from the elders in this room and others that have passed. They taught me a lot. And so now I have to do the same thing. But I think one thing that I need to let them know, and everyone, is that change is not always bad. Change is good. And you may not be part of the change, but it's going to happen. And so make sure that it's constructive and positive. When the Centro de la Raza, the building or program closed, Roberto handed the keys over symbolically to, was it Thampok? I think it was Tan, and it became United Cambodian Community. So, and instead of the Aztec on the wall, we had some beautiful Cambodian murals. And so it happens, and if we aren't part of it, it's going to happen anyway. So we might as well be part of it and be constructive. The other thing I've learned, and what I can only say, is that besides trying to be a mentor to those are behind us, is that or that are coming next, is that we have to give them patience that we never had, I guess. Make sure that they have patience, because it's a long haul. When you talk about what is that called? District elections, and that the school board had, and Jenny was the first Latina on the school, first Latino or Latina on the school board, I guess in, what was it, if it was 84, I guess, that it took 25 years to get our second. 25 years before we had a second. And when she was the first Latina on the city council, it took 8 years to get a second one. That was me. So it takes a long time to do things and to have some effective and positive results. And so I think to, again, make sure that people hang in there. People gave me strength when I was going through a lot of things, and so in return, we need to help others. I mean, I don't think we could have survived this long, and with all the help that we got from the other activists in Long Beach and some people who were there to help us along the way, and not just the Latino community, but I mean tremendous assistance with those in other communities. So,
thank you, Tonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that for most of us up here, I think we all had these basic fundamental goals of social, political, and economic inclusion. We were not at the table. And I think what you're hearing is that we all learn in different ways how to get into the game. I think for us, I know that the Democratic Party became that vehicle. We had considerable success with that. We were able to get Tonia elected, Roberto elected, Robert. I mean, Carmen was active in the political party. We worked with, of course, with the African American community and the Asian community. We learned that the coalitions, of course, created the strength that we needed. Of course, we need that now more than ever. But it was that's what we did. And I think Sharon said that her house always had a lot of meetings. I mean, that's all we did when we were young. We went to meetings, and I mean it. We were there, I mean, every night of the week, and then when we had young children, they were at the meetings too. 1975, I think, our collective group, I think we had maybe 8 to 10 children that were all born in 75. That's my eldest son's. I only have one son, my son's age. He's going to be 50 in October. But that's what we did, and that's how we did it. And we did learn from the African American community. Jim Wilson was a friend of ours. Mama Doris was a friend of ours. They gave us insights. They helped us. But so did the progressive, radical, white, elderly community. Sid Solomon, Henry Geiler, Bonnie and Alan, they were kids. working with them. But all of them, they recognized something in us and they wanted to give. Most of those people that were in Labachi had very strong union histories in their background, either in New York or New Jersey or Chicago or big city stuff. So they shared a lot of great information. I remember Henry at our house showing us how we could make the city, give us the funding, even though they said that they wouldn't give it to us because they had the regulations. We had those regulations dissected, bisected, and I mean, we knew what we were doing. But it was a lot of work, but work that has been going on for a long, long time.
Yeah, it didn't start just a few days ago. In one of the exhibits that I have presented in 1913, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Elijah, he actually was testifying before City Council about the Pike, about the racist activity that was happening at the Pike. So the African American community, the black community, has fought this fight for a long time. Struggled, found ways to overcome. And then for me as a younger person, sort of felt like, okay, we had gotten some things done. We had arrived. But as time has gone on, I come to understand that democracy is not free. It's never won and won forever. It is a constant fight. And so we see that today, that those very principles, those guidelines that we thought we had fought those battles, we had gotten past that. That, we all have to fight for democracy, not just black people, not Latino, not Asians or whatever, but the principle, the concept of it, to which my parents sort of drilled into me, and we were fighting for the laws, but it's also a concept, it's a belief that the fight doesn't end. Democracy is not free. And if we are going to have the world we want, and we see now it's not just about color. If we're going to have the world that we want, we are all going to have to fight for it, because who thought we'd be where we are today? And like I said, it's not even about politics or anything like that. It's just happening and it's evolving, and we're like, what the heck? It's something. It's a fight for every single one of us if we want to live in the kind of world that we say we want to live in.
Well, thank you, for, I think, all the wisdom for three panelists, I'm here to learn. Same thing with my community. I mean, if we compare, Cambodian community, it's still a young community in this country. And we try to learn from you, try to walk, after your path. And thank you for create, this path for us. I think Cambodian community is struggle, and we work our way up and up until, right now that our community start getting, I would say that build up and get a little bit stronger. We're still not strong enough. But this is the first time we ever, get the representative as a city council in the city of Long Beach. This is the first time, because I think in the past there's 3 candidates, they tried to run, didn't make it. And this is the first time that Dr. Suli Saro run and she got elected. In fact, during the election, during that time, there's a group, Cambodian community, support Dr. Suli Saro. That's a group which is, I'm the other group that did not support her, but supporting Councilman D. Andrew. And we have a reason why we, support him. He is our good friend, good city council. And we just cannot just abandon him and to support, the other candidate because she's Cambodian. But the election run well, and, she got elected. And after that, I mean, the election over, we support her. Yeah, we did not vote for her for the first, but we vote for her for the second time. I mean, for the second election. And this is what we want to show to people that, you know, when it comes to that, there's no personal, but this is what we see and what we believe, and you just go with your belief. And that's what we do. And I can see that, I would say that our community start to get involved, I think in politics or involve what activity, you know, in city of Long Beach. You can see that at the city council meeting, you know, sometimes you see a lot of us, you know, out there because the issue. And this is what we learned from both, you know, the other community, African American and his, you know, Hispanic. And like you said, you have to constantly fight for your community, for yourself, and if you don't, nobody gonna do it for you. For real. And that's what we learn. And I feel that, you know, my husband and I, we are blessed that we choose, you know, city of Long Beach is a place that we, you know, we grow up and then we work and we serve. And we want to continue that, and I want to work with all the community because when we don't understand each other, we tend to assume, oh, this community, this is not good, you know. You tend to, you know, have that perception of stereotype. But when you sit down and talk, you know one another, when you understand the culture, you say, oh, they are so nice. And it's not what people think. And that's why you see that the parade that we organize every year, that's what we want to share with you, that we came here, we brought with us is 1,000 years of culture. And we are nice people, we are friendly people, you know, and we want to live in harmony in this community, and we don't want to harm anybody. And that's what we want to do that. So that's what my husband and I, we don't have a kid, and most of the time after work, weekend, we put all the time in the community, but we enjoy doing it.
All right.
Let me just say, think about it. How can diversity, equity, inclusion, and access be a negative goal, an aspirational goal? How can it not be an aspirational goal? How can it not be an aspirational goal? Since we were young kids, I mean, it's always do your work so that you can get ahead. Go ahead so that we can be involved. You know, go to school so you can, you know, have some equity in the community. So for DEIA, because I include access, for that to come out of this administration as a negative something, something is wrong. And I certainly don't believe, I certainly don't believe that it's, you know, anybody in this room, because you have all been out there on those front lines, working in your collective communities, struggling to make things better. I mean, remember when we were the most diverse large city in America, and Beverly came out and said, we're the most diverse large city in America, and we embrace it.
Yeah.
Long Beach embraced it. So we're not part of that problem, and we should never let ourselves become part of that problem. But we're going to have to fight our you-know-what's off to keep it.
Because DEI is not black and white.
Yeah.
DNI is not black and white. It's women. It's young people. It's all of us. It's not a black and white issue.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with our last question. So you guys are kind of alluding to, you know, what you're doing now is what I'm interested to see. So we have kind of talked a little bit about how we are seeing, you know, pushback to a lot of progress that has been made over the years. And you guys have all alluded to progress, you know, isn't just one way. It doesn't just come without struggle. And right now we're going through a period of struggle. So I'm interested to hear from you guys. What are you doing now in the face of this pushback? What are you doing?
Well, I have a short answer. I'm committed to telling our stories. to telling the stories of the everyday individuals who were part of the movements and who have fought and who have struggled. Because I think through telling those stories, we inspire our young people to say, you don't have to take on the whole picture and you don't have to be the leader of the movement or anything like that, that micro-activism, that there's small ways, and this is how, this housewife, how she got involved. So through the African American Culture Center, through the historic African American Cultural District that we are now developing, is to be able to tell the story, especially of individuals and how they help to move and change the world. So that's my main commitment now. So I'm compiling as many historical stories as I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharon.
Well, for me, I'm going to continue to work to build up my community, to strengthen my community, because it's very important that they get involved, whatever the decision, in Long Beach, whether or not in Long Beach or anywhere. And one thing that we don't, and especially, the new generation that, I would say my community, the one that are born here, don't take things for granted, okay? Because we, for us as a first generation, when we came here, we struggled and we make it, So we want to, like you said, continue to tell the story, what we went through. And if what we went through did not deter us from doing what we want, and they should not, because they born here, they speak the English, and they have everything. It should not like us, where we came from. So they should go to school and be productive citizen and continue tell the story.
Well, on a personal level, I'm trying to enjoy retirement.
Good luck, Tonia.
I know, it's just not happening. What's going on? But we revitalized LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, and are bringing it back to ensure that we protect home base, and that's the city of Long Beach Unified School District, Long Beach City College, Cal State Long Beach, that those institutions in this city remain diverse and inclusive and are acting equitably, and that our children are safe there. So we have in the last, we're in our second year now, and so we've done a lot. I know much to, Doug is here, and he's, being very patient with us, ensuring that Long Beach Unified School District still protects our children, immigrant, whether legal or not, and that they're getting a good education, especially if they're English language learners. Cal State Long Beach, they're having a new search for president. We hope that they embrace a Californian, someone who understands the political landscape, because we are so different from the rest of the country, and that it's not always good to bring someone from New York or sexy because they're from Chicago. It's like, we have a lot of people here in California that are very, that's right. And we hope that they select one. And basically, I ran again for delegate for the California Democratic Party, and so I'm involved again to make sure that the party doesn't kill itself, but that we stay strong and that we are fighting, because people depend on systems to keep them going. And if you can't depend on something like your own political party, then we're really, so protect home base. That's it, and to ensure that people aren't afraid. I saw something that this gentleman had said. Was it a pastor? Maybe it was on Facebook. I don't know. My mind, I'm old. Said that, what are we afraid of? They've closed our schools before. They've arrested immigrants before. With the Bracero program, they left, and some people never saw their parents again. They've put us in jail before. They have acted against us in many ways. We have been through this. Many of our parents have been through this. Our grandparents have been through this. So we should not be afraid to act, and we shouldn't be afraid about what's happening, because we know better. We have stories to learn from. So that's what I'm trying to do, protect home base.
Yeah. Thank you, Tonia.
And I agree with all of that. I think that, again, I love Long Beach. I think Long Beach is a shining star out there. When I see Robert Garcia on national news talking about the issues, I mean, hey, you know what? That gives you something to stand up about. Rex, I mean, he's not even, is he 40? I mean, we've got young leaders here. We need to continue to support them, work with them. I mean, Jessica's working on finally getting Centro Cha, an official building, the African American Cultural Center. We've got lots of work to do, but bottom line is that we have to continue to do what we've been doing. It's organizing, it's participating, it's going to these things where we have to drink a little bit of wine and say hi to our friends. All of us in here, we all know each other because we're the same people that go to all the other things. But the problem is we need to get some people that are under 50 years of age. Yep. So, because we're all getting up there a little bit. We still have a little bit of time left, but yeah, we have our work to do. But I think we've got lots to do in Long Beach, and I think Long Beach represents well considering the national environment. And, you know, I mean, Robert, hey, he's incredible, but there's others as well.
Yes, definitely. Sithea, you have something else to add?
I just want to add that also not it's two things that I didn't mention that I'm going to continue to work on. Supporting the Cambodian American Study model curriculum for the state California for I think from 0 to K-12. That's going to be I think they start to probably the end of the year implement it, that one. And then also that is another project that going to work on is the Cambodia Town Grand Entrance that hopefully that will be completed before the Olympic 2028. Yes.
Well, thank you. All right, guys, so I am done asking the panelists questions, so I am going to go ahead and open the floor to you guys. So if you have a question that is directed to a specific panelist or to all of them, you are free to go ahead and ask questions now.
Bianca has a microphone.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Elaine Villanueva Bernal. I teach at Cal State Long Beach. So thank you for being here. So I was recently elected to be a board officer in my faculty union, and I'm the first Filipino person to do so in the union's 42-year history. So my question is, what advice would you have for someone like myself in my position? Thank you.
What was the board again? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
You were elected to?
Oh, the California Faculty Association. So the faculty union representing 29,000 faculty in the CSU system.
Congratulations.
I would, oh, is you asking the rest? Yeah, okay. I would say, and Gary knows this, you have to grow your ground troops, your infantry, your supporters in and out of the college system. And Gary's done a good job in some instances of trying to do that, and other people that have a union experience, you can't do it alone and with members because you're so focused on exactly what you need to do. Let us help. Let people come out, and because you're teaching our children and all the teachers of tomorrow too. So,
Be courageous. Be willing to ask the tough questions, to bring the issues forward because someone has to. So be courageous.
Organize. I don't know how many ethnic members there are in your group, but my late compadre Armando Vasquez Ramos, who was on that faculty association, I think one of the last things he was working on was the creation of a Chicano caucus. I think that would equally apply for the Asians as well as the African Americans. I'm not sure how that organizational structure works, but when you have a leverage point, your voice gets bigger and louder. And even though there's only a few of you, it only takes a few. Carmen, Armando, and myself, and a few other people, Phyllis. 5 people formulate a good position and just sell it and stay with it.
I think Ms. Evelyn had a question. I'm sorry.
I would say that build up a strong alliance. Okay, that's how Cambodia Town successful with that.
I think Ms. Evelyn has a question.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
My question, I would just like to say that all of you and everything that was said is interrelated to all of the needs, issues, problems, concerns, movements, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What and how can we as people, we as communities, we as a country raise our voices higher and higher and deeper and louder to get to where we really want to move forward together, intentionally, smartly, peoplely, and everything is needed to make us go somewhere.
Miss Evelyn Knight, like I said, I've had the pleasure of growing up under her and for her being one of my heroes. And I know we've talked a lot tonight about representation and all of that, but her comments brings me back to a thought that it's not all about race. I'm coming to understand that in the world that we live in now, race is a very American kind of man-made structure, that the issues that are facing us are bigger than race. You know, what's our commonality? What do we have in common? When we destroy this earth, is there another earth that I don't know about that's already out there that people are going to go to? You know, the issues are bigger than race at this point in time, and they always have been. I know my parents worked with the Jewish community a lot during the very early days, the 20s and 30s and 40s of the movement and all of that. We're going to have to find ways to move beyond race. That's man-made. That's an American thing that we are holding on to. But we got bigger issues than that.
Yes, definitely.
I think I agree with Sharon. You know what? When I was in Cambodia, I never know what is a race or ethnicity. I only learn when I come to the United States. So she is right. Race is an American, thing. And we should look beyond that, We should look at on the issue, instead of race. So I just have a training about just the race and ethnicity. It take me about, I think, 6 or 7 weeks, to learn that. So, yes, I agree with her that we should looking forward and then also, look at the issue, forget about the race, and ethnicity.
Yeah. I would simply say that it's very important to understand history. It's very important to study history because many of the things that we're dealing with today have existed before in history. As Sharon said, we thought some of this had gone away, but when we don't learn our lessons, it does tend to repeat itself. But we do have a lot of work to do. And it's about our community, and it's about our children, and it's about our future. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's unfathomable to me to hear that DEIA is something negative, but it is what it is. We understand that, and we need to work towards fixing it. And a part of that is, elections are how we make change in this country. Obviously, a lot of people didn't vote in the last election. And if they did, I don't know what they were thinking, but I hope they got what they wanted.
I hope their 401 is doing, what it's supposed to do, but anyway.
Quickly, Miss Evelyn, I was going to ask you that question. What do we do? I was going to ask you that question, but when you talk about louder and higher so that people could hear what we want to, I think the only way to do that is to come together, because two voices are louder than one, and then of course 10 are louder than two, so we just need to come together like we did in the past, and it has to be loud because some people just don't hear things. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Vicky. She, her pronouns. There was the collective activism here is incredible. There's a lot of representation when you just kind of take a snapshot of the table. But I couldn't help but think that Long Beach is a wonderfully gay city. It has got a rich history. It's one of the more gay-friendly cities in the entire nation. I was wondering if any one of you would like to speak to, I know that there recently was a passage of us being a sanctuary city, I believe was the term, at the latest council meeting. But we know that this current administration is unashamedly targeting some of the most marginalized and least represented and least supported people, and I'm speaking of trans, non-binary folks. I was wondering, since there isn't an actual person here representing that sector of our community, if anyone would like to say something about that and how it specifically relates to Long Beach and its history of being a gay-friendly city. Thank you.
So I think that if we can't create a safe and a progressive environment for our trans, especially youth, because they are so vulnerable already, and if we can't do it here in Long Beach, then it just can't be done. And I know that we can do it here in Long Beach. The gay community is organized and loud and very proud, and I think it's just that's the last frontier, because it's the last frontier of people who maybe don't understand the lifestyle, don't understand the biology, but don't understand what it is. So it's up to all of us to make sure that we understand and share that with people. But if we can't do it here in Long Beach, then I'm really lost. I think and probably we need those that are trans to come and be leaders and do that for us to help us through this, because we have a good community here, and I see no reason why our kids or even adults should be persecuted in any way, but it happens, even here in Long Beach, unfortunately.
And then you. Thank you. Well, I wanted to piggyback on something that Ron Arias said. I think that education about the issues is so important, because if people don't vote, then they're just wasting their voice in the community. So getting out the vote is so important. And finally, when is Robert Garcia going to have a town hall meeting?
Yeah.
Well, but we need more.
Yeah. I believe Robert did have a town hall,
A couple weeks
10 days ago?
Yeah.
So, but I think there are others being planned, because I just got one of his little things asking if he wanted another town hall.
Yeah. But you bring up a point in terms of the dissemination of information, how we get our information now, how that being one of the cornerstones of democracy that we're losing. I mean, we no longer have a newspaper that's really here. Unbiased presentation of the news and all that, that's one of the things that we're going to have to fight for as a people as well. That's a big threat to us these days.
I was going to ask a question, but first I want to let you know that the Historical Society did a very extensive exhibit on the history of the LGBTQ community in Long Beach, and we've got it in our archives. And Raina did a great overview essay that is on our website that I encourage you to go to. I wanted to ask the question, maybe it's too personal, but activists, do we raise activists? Olivia Herrera, Nieto Herrera, really raised a daughter who was an activist. I haven't figured out how to do that. Have any of you figured out how to pass it on to the next generation? Or are they going to take a while? Or are they too resentful that we spent so much time away from them? So, any ideas bringing up the next generation? Thanks.
I would say that we raised, out of 3 children, we raised 1.5 activists. And they're active, but they understand and they will explain and they will talk issues and policies. What they won't do is run for office ever. And that's unfortunate. But there's other ways. Being an elected official is not necessarily being an activist, unless you're an activist elected official. And so, it kind of soured them on politics because it's very dirty and they trash your mom and dad, and you never, it's just, so they'll never do that. But I believe that you do raise activists. They see you, we've taken them since they were kids, on marches, on with the United Farm Workers. They were there, the picture, if you see the picture with me and Frank Berry when we had that press conference, you see it just the top of a little head. That's my son, who's 42 now. So, and he understands and still talks to people about what's happening and what's wrong and what's right. And of course, he thinks he knows everything, but still, that's okay. You do raise activists, and you can. And I bet you do.
Sometimes you can get forced. Sometimes you get drafted into it. Sometimes there may just be one, that feels it. But I do believe that we all need to talk to our families, to our children. We need to speak the words. We need to encourage all of that. But yeah, sometimes you get drafted. Sometimes it comes naturally. I think Roberta.
Thank you. Thank the panelists for all their great comments. I have a comment and then a question. Or a couple of comments and a question. The word itself, activism. What does it say? Active. What does that mean? Get active. That's what it means. You ever read an activist? Have them get active. I forget what congressman said this, but it was something like, get in trouble, get in good trouble. Be an activist. So my question is, and I don't need the answer here, but I don't want to see this stop. I want to see it continue in a certain way. So for us here, and for others who are interested, what are some groups or organizations that people can join to get into some good trouble?
Well, certainly if there isn't one, you start your own. I mean, that one thing you learn is don't complain, organize, right? And so you get off your you know what, and you start organizing. If you can't find a organization that serves trans youth or something, organize one. If you can't, if LULAC isn't your cup of tea because it has a certain rep or something, but people make do with the organization that they have, and they make it their own.
Exactly.
Create one. But yeah, if you I would suggest anyone who wants to like to join the League of United Latin American Citizens, we can do that. We're very active in the educational arena. We hope to expand to civics. I know Rex will love us because of that, but we're going to start doing some things. But there's all kinds of organizations. We don't have a Labachi anymore. That was my favorite organization. It was a coalition of Long Beach organizations after that. But there's any organization you join is what you make it. So unless if you're not active in your organization, then why join? So
I know for me, there's two quick examples. So we have the African American Cultural Center, which is a newly sort of formed organization. That's one stream, but I grew up under the NAACP. One of the things we're going to have to understand as adults is that our organizations are going to have to transition. Right. Our young people are not going to come to that Sunday meeting at 3 o'clock like the NAACP did for 100 years. Some of our traditional organizations have value and we need to still support them. We have to be willing to pass on leadership. We can't continue to want to lead that organization the same way it was led 40 years ago, because young people are not going to join. They serve in different ways. So being willing to pass the torch, see how they and how we can engage them, and then open to new ways of organizing. Like I said, technology has changed our world. Yeah. So we are going to have to look outside of the box in terms of that. So passing the torch and being open to new ways and their ideas are essential. We just got a new president of the NAACP who's energized, and I'm excited about that opportunity.
You never have to meet. Just turn on your Zoom and then get out in the community and start working. You have to do it one at a time. This door-to-door works. You have to have each individual at a time. So people think it's, you can't just do a big media blitz. You have to talk to people one-on-one, and it's very time-consuming, but it's effective.
But bottom line, each and every one of us has to get involved. Yeah. You have to stay involved. As difficult and as challenging as it is, you have to go to those meetings. You have to participate, and we can't just leave it up to our leaders. It's everyone. And when you're talking with your children, you educate them as best you can. I mean, we have 2 grandchildren, and I think they're coming up pretty good. They know things already that they should know about what's right and what's wrong and what's going on. But anyway, it's an ongoing and continuous and lifelong adventure. Yeah. It's not something that we do and then not do. It's a continuation. And again, I think I've learned a lot from the African American community, reading the histories. I mean, and even our own history, which has been we don't have a lot, but a lot of new stuff is coming out. So there's a lot of great information out there. It's again instilling those elements that create an energy inside of a person that they want to that moves them to move, that moves them to participate. That's it.
One other thing, we're going to have to start talking the language too that said, again, I said democracy is not free. It also costs. You can't just come to a meeting. Our forefathers paid with their pockets. They donated money. They were willing to bail people out of jail. Our young people, we have to help them to understand too that it does cost. And you need to make a financial investment as well as a time investment in order for us to keep moving forward.
Well, I think
I just had
for me, we don't have any children. We have a grandniece, and we have the community. So we try to encourage them to get involved, and especially new generation. It's not the same as like for us, first generation that come here. We working so hard and fight for everything, but for them, we need to encourage them and then have them get involved, do more volunteer. That's how I learned. So every time I met with people, new generation in our community, we just share the story and tell them how we struggle and how we get involved. And that is the only way we do educate them, and then also bring them work side by side. We also having a problem challenges to find the successor, that we not young, we every day, you're getting older, we trying to find a successor, but still cannot find one yet because the work that we do is a volunteer. We don't get paid. And the new generation, they're talking about pay, you know? I mean, for us, we work somewhere else, but we spend time, you know, we put it in the community, we build up the organization. So I guess it's just like we continue, look forward and not give up.
Thank you. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and
Hi,
take our
I
last
know
question.
it's getting late. I just had one interesting question. On the East Coast, when we were working in civil rights, we did a lot of international and national connections. Here in Long Beach, did any of you get involved with national and international organizations at the time that you were working in the 60s and the 70s?
For me, I involved with, I'm not sure if everybody ever hear Long Beach Sister City Inc. That's the international. Well, Cambodia, we have Phnom Penh Sister City is one of the chapter. And that is the international. We're talking, I think, what we involved with, I think, trade, student exchange, culture exchange, and I think there's many more activity. So that is the international. Beside the local, that's what, we get involved, yes. And I think recently, we just, from the Phnom Penh, Long Beach Phnom Penh Sister City, I think we just had, they would call a sport diplomacy. So we just sponsor, I think about 20 or 23, we call Kun Khmer, which is like boxing, to come and I think fight, I think on April 12th. And so that is a exchange, and that's what we learn, and we bring people here to learn from America, and also from America to Cambodia. We learn it from there. Yes.
Anything else?
That was a fitting. Yeah. That was a fitting final question from Peggy Priestley, a civil rights pioneer in her own right. Yeah. I'd like to thank all of our panelists tonight. This was fantastic. I learned something every time I speak with each and every one of you. And I'd also like to thank the audience for coming and showing us that people are interested in hearing this kind of history. So thank you. Join the Historical Society.